Hey guys, I'm Jim and I'm obsessed with movies, and up until last week I had never seen Rio Bravo. Now I have seen it and I'm compelled to make it my next movie review and retrospective. That's how much I loved it. Usually takes a lot of watches for me to want to talk about something in depth, but I love Rio Bravo so much that I'm going to talk about it right now. There was just something about this movie that propelled it to the top of my to-do list. So let's take a look at the Howard Hawks directed, John Wayne starring vehicle, and one of Quentin Tarantino's favourite films of all time, Rio Bravo.
Because it's so much fun, Chan! Get it!
Rio Bravo was directed by famous American filmmaker Howard Hawks, who was behind such movies as the original Scarface, His Girl Friday, Bringing Up Baby, and of course Rio Bravo. Hawks was notable for his ambitious leaps into many different genres. He pretty much covered everything from science fiction all the way to romance, and film critic Leonard Maltin once referred to him as the greatest American director who is not a household name. Sadly, the legendary Hawks was only once nominated for Best Director at the Oscars in 1942 for Sergeant York, but he never managed to grab the elusive prize. Happily, Hawks was offered an honorary award in 1975 from the Oscars, probably because they felt bad for never actually giving the guy the respect he deserved, and just to make sure he eventually had something. The honorary award should probably be renamed the "Oh shit, we fucked over a lot of directors and we're sorry" award. By the late 50s, John Wayne had deliberately moved away from westerns after The Searchers in 1956, but none of his films since then have been particularly successful or well received, so the king of the classic western returned for Rio Bravo. The movie was made by Howard Hawks and John Wayne as a counter-response to the underlying theme and point of view of the movie High Noon from 1952. High Noon is sometimes thought to be an allegory for blacklisting in Hollywood, as well as a critique of McCarthyism. Wayne would later call High Noon un-American and said he did not regret helping run the writer Carl Furthman out of the country. Wow. High Noon was directed by Fred Zinnemann and caused a huge stir with Howard Hawks. Hawks went on the record to criticise High Noon by saying, "I didn't think a good sheriff was going to go running around town like a chicken with his head cut off asking for help, and finally his wife had to save him." Wait a minute. Fucking hell, what's she doing? She's saving a man? A woman saving a man? Fucking turn it off quick! Turn it off! Turn it off! Oh, thank God it's off. Thank God. What has happened to the world? Filming began on May 1st, 1958, and exteriors for the film were shot at Old Tucson Studios just outside Tucson. The movie was completed well before the end of the year, with Howard Hawks only going over schedule by 6 days. Warner Brothers decided to hold the release of the movie back anyway until the start of 1959, where it had its premiere in New York City. Because it was his first movie for a while, Howard Hawks was very nervous for several days during filming, but his confidence built as time went on, resulting in him making the bold choice of directing the opening sequence as a homage to the silent era for the first 4.5 minutes. It's a very unique opening that sets things up perfectly, and is a testament to Hawks as a director. He doesn't need sound to set up his entire conceit, which is a clear indication that even by the 50s there was a certain magic to silence that I still think works to this day. Rio Bravo made over 5 million in the US and 12 million worldwide, which sounds like jack shit today, but keep in mind this was back when every single movie didn't cost $1 billion to make. This was back when you could make big movies for under $1 million. I know. Next you're going to tell me there wasn't a time where footballers were paid a quadrillion, zillion, billion, trillion a week. I know, mental, innit?
Well, this is 1969. That amount of money doesn't even exist. I want a bajillion dollars.
Based on the short story Rio Bravo by B.H. McCampbell, the film is about the sheriff of the town of Rio Bravo, Texas, Chance, played by John Wayne, who arrests the brother of a powerful local rancher to help his drunken deputy friend, Dude, played by Dean Martin. With the help of a crazy, crippled old man with a big heart called Stumpy, played by Walter Brennan, and also a young gunfighter, Colorado, played by Ricky Nelson, they attempt to hold off the rancher's gang in an against all odds battle. I still can't believe I had never seen Rio Bravo. This is the sort of movie I really wish I had seen growing up. I've seen westerns like The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, Unforgiven, but this one had a unique effect that those films didn't. Don't get me wrong, I adore films like The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, but for different reasons. Rio Bravo has a very different style to the westerns I'm used to. I would actually place Rio Bravo right up there with the best westerns I've seen, and one of the reasons is the positive, uplifting feeling the film resonates, at least for me. Throughout the whole viewing experience, I really felt like this was a movie you could show to kids and they would love. Now, it's not necessarily a children's film, but it has that heroes and villains excitement that you love to watch growing up. It's not a dark or visceral film like a lot of later westerns are. There's something joyful about Rio Bravo. The film has this light-hearted feeling. It makes you smile and fills you with childhood excitement, reminding you of the times you would idolise cowboys and fantasise about the Old West. Rio Bravo is pretty much pure entertainment from start to finish. It's a film full of constant energy, memorable moments and characters you genuinely love to watch. It's that classic story of good people joining together not because it necessarily benefits them, but because it is the right thing to do. This is a film about seeing the good in people. We are exposed to several very contrasting individuals in Rio Bravo, and like the sheriff, we grow an appreciation for each of their different skills and personalities, and realise that everyone has their place and can provide something worthwhile. This movie was also my first John Wayne movie. Yes, I call myself a film buff, call myself a film obsessive, and I've never seen a John Wayne movie. You might as well unsubscribe now. But did he stand up to the reputation he had as an amazing leading man? John Wayne is superb in the movie. From the second you see him, he just has this great presence. It really does feel like everyone else in a scene is feeding off his superstar aura, and he kind of dictates the pace of everything going on. I think what's interesting about John Wayne is how understated he is. When we think of leading men these days, we look for those really extravagant, thought-provoking performances. We forgot about the concept of the movie star. And John Wayne, a lot like Clint Eastwood, was a movie star. He just knows what to do when the camera's rolling. And because of that fact, it doesn't matter if he's not the greatest actor who ever lived, he's still a true movie star. Wayne once said he doesn't act, he reacts, and that's certainly true. While everyone is feeding off his aura, as I said, at the same time he is reacting to the energy they are giving him, and that's what makes him work so well. He's not out to steal the show, and ironically, through not trying to do that, he ultimately does.
I'm sorry. Sorry don't get it done, dude. That's the second time you hit me. Don't ever do it again. Maybe you're right. Maybe you aren't much good anymore.
Wayne's character of Chance is very fun to watch. He is hard-edged and serious, but at the same time, he is genuinely friends with Dude and Stumpy, and that makes him very endearing. Throughout the film, the sheriff has to learn to put more faith in his friends and accept more help from people, and it's interesting to see him wrestle with this dilemma and finally accept that he can't protect everyone, and sometimes he has to allow them to have their moment by his side. Can you imagine if John Wayne and Clint Eastwood did a movie together? Surely the world would just explode from testosterone and just wouldn't be able to carry on from so much awesome. Apparently Clint Eastwood wrote to John Wayne at one point asking if they could do a movie together, and Wayne declined. Poor old Clint, he finally met someone who was more of a grumpy old boring sod than him.
The most boring person in the whole world's finally getting a taste of his own medicine.
Dude is such a fun character, and actor Dean Martin puts in a cracking performance. He's the classic underdog, desperate to prove himself to the sheriff, but with several limitations, often self-inflicted, holding him back. Howard Hawks at first negotiated for Frank Sinatra to co-star as Dude, and considered many other actors too, such as James Cagney. However, Dean Martin ended up being a great choice, as he effortlessly plays a drunk who we root for, because we can see his potential and the lost soul behind his eyes. When he was cast as Dude, Dean Martin turned to his friend Marlon Brando for advice about playing the role. Of course, Brando was known for his down-on-his-luck desperate character from On the Waterfront, and you can certainly see Brando's influence on Martin, bringing that regret and frustration to the character. Dean Martin and John Wayne have some fantastic interactions, and you really bleed the friendship between these two, and a desire from both men for Dude to get back on his feet. There are several times in the film we see Dude's potential and what he is capable of, such as a spectacular scene where he completely outwits a room full of enemies by himself. Dude looks up to the sheriff, but it's not like he can simply give up his demons just like that and suddenly become the man he should be. He goes on a journey, and we long for him to complete it because he's such a likeable character. He's also extremely cool, noble and brave, so his ambitions outweigh his flaws, and we simply can't help but believe in him. And I think the sheriff feels the same. He can't let this friendship go, even when Dude might revert back to his old ways in certain moments and end up frustrating him.
As good as I used to be? It'd be pretty close. I'd hate to have to live on the difference.
Then you got the best of it. Him for me.
What's he talking about, him for me? Well, come on, tell me. Nobody ever tells me nothing around here.
You heard him, he's quitting.
Do any of you have a friend that you, like, fucking hate?
Now let's talk about the character who might actually be my favourite, Walter Brennan as Stumpy. This old mad Zoon is so much fun to watch. He doesn't take any shit from anyone, even John Wayne. Stumpy is hilarious, providing the comic relief in the film.
That was a good one.
Oh, stop cackling.
But he is not simply this raving old man, his character has a lot of heart, and we genuinely believe the friendship these three men have, even though they cause each other a lot of grief. Stumpy would be such a fun old man to be around. He hasn't lost his energy for life, and he doesn't let anyone, even the sheriff, push him around. He's a very warm, mischievous character who lights up the screen every scene he is in. The three friends are eventually joined by fresh-faced youngster Colorado, played by Ricky Nelson, in another good performance. He gradually warms up to the three as he sees them in genuine need, and slowly but surely becomes part of the gang. Howard Hawks originally did not want to cast Ricky Nelson, whom he considered to be both too young and too lightweight, and deliberately gave him the fewest possible number of lines for a third billed star. However, he later admitted that having Nelson's name on the poster had probably added $2 million to the film's box office performance. On May 8th, 1958, just 1 week into shooting, Ricky Nelson celebrated his 18th birthday. As a gift, John Wayne and Dean Martin gave him a £300 sack of steer manure, which they then threw Nelson into as a rite of passage.
Manure! I hate manure!
Ricky Nelson is very charismatic, looks the part, and ends up being the wild card of the film, coming in to shake things up and prove he can hang with the big boys. Just like the other characters, Colorado eventually wonders how he ended up in this situation, but ultimately he doesn't regret it because he makes some friends for life and has a great adventure that brings out the best in him. That's what the movie's all about: friendship, cooperation, having a good time in the face of adversity, and watching characters on screen you would love to be friends with yourself. And you know what, I'm going to let good old Quentin Tarantino handle this one, because he describes the style of Rio Bravo so well in an interview he once did about the film.
To me, one of the things about Rio Bravo that's so wonderful is there's all kinds of things in it that's really great, but to me, yes, it's one of my favorite, it's one of the greatest westerns, yes, it's one of the greatest Hawks films, it's one of the greatest John Wayne movies, but it also fits into another genre, because I'm always about cutting movies up and putting them into subgenres. It's one of the great hangout movies. There are certain movies that you hang out with the characters so much that they actually become your friends. And it's a really rare quality to have in a film. And it doesn't rarely happen, and those movies are usually quite long, because it actually takes that long of a time to get past a movie character where you actually feel you know the person and you like them. And Rio Bravo is maybe one of the greatest hangout movies of all time. When it's over, they're your friends. And every time, and the thing is, what was so good about seeing it again and again and again is now they're already your friends. Whenever you watch it, you're just hanging out with John T. Chance and Dude and Feathers, and it's just your friends.
Now we know why movies like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs are hangout movies, as Quentin puts it. It all comes back to Rio Bravo. It's strange when you go back in film history and discover movies you really should have seen that end up making clear why a lot of filmmakers made the choices they did years later. And I'm not just talking about Tarantino, there are clearly many directors who have been influenced by this film, including John Carpenter, who cited it as an influence for Assault on Precinct 13. Rio Bravo really is an influential movie. John Wayne also has a love interest in the film, played by Angie Dickinson as the character of Feathers. The love story in Rio Bravo is great. It truly does build up over the course of the film. They don't just fall into each other's arms, they take turns playing with each other's emotions and pissing each other off for a bit. Sounds just like modern dating. Some things never change. Angie Dickinson puts in a very charismatic performance, as well as her being very easy on the eye.
Yikes.
For this performance, Angie Dickinson won a Golden Globe for New Star of the Year, and it's not hard to see why. She has that twinkle in her eye of a movie star, and went on to star in movies such as Ocean's 11, The Killers and Point Blank. I do think with John Wayne and Angie Dickinson, it's a little bit of a case of how it was with Roger Moore as James Bond, when he was banging all these 20-odd-year-old girls. I mean, John Wayne was in his 50s at this point, and this actress was 26. But hey, it's John Wayne. I mean, Clint Eastwood didn't stop when he was in his fucking 70s, he was still getting the young birds. The old perv. In all seriousness, as I said, this is a very believable relationship to watch, and the two actors have chemistry. Feathers also has a journey in the film as she decides to stick around to help the sheriff despite not knowing if it's the right thing to do and whether she is making a mistake. She, like all the characters in Rio Bravo, feels very three-dimensional and real and makes a hard choice to stick around for some reason or another. Obviously in her case it's for the sake of falling in love. I do feel sorry for her when the sheriff is constantly keeping up his tough bravado, when all she wants him to do is to tell her how he really feels. He literally refuses until the very end to declare his true feelings.
I'm trying to hurry, but I'm all thumbs. What I had to go through, put on these tights, ask a lot of questions, start to walk out, I thought you were never gonna say it.
Say what?
That you loved me.
I said I'd arrest you.
It means the same thing, you know that. You just won't say it. Oh, we're different. I'll have to get used to you. Me, I just talk all the time.
You most certainly do.
There's a bad boy and then there's evil.
Rio Bravo received positive reviews, well, apart from British film critic Leslie Halliwell, who gave the film 2 out of 4 stars, describing it as cheerfully overlong and a slow-moving western. The film was taken more seriously by independent British critics such as Robin Wood, who rated it as his top film of all time, and wrote a book on it in 2003 for the British Film Institute. Rio Bravo now has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes and was the second highest ranking western in the 2012 Sight and Sound Critics poll of the greatest films ever made. In 2008, the American Film Institute nominated this film for its top 10 western films list, and the movie also appears on Roger Ebert's Great Movies compilation. Howard Hawks went on to make 2 loose variations of Rio Bravo, on both occasions under a different title. El Dorado, released in 1967, and Rio Lobo, released in 1970. Both starred John Wayne, and both involve lawmen taking on a group of criminals and eventually hiding out in their jailhouses. I'm starting to think I should go back and watch more and more of Howard Hawks' films, because he just has something about him. He had that sparkle that makes an iconic, timeless and incredible filmmaker. Rio Bravo is a true classic that I very much recommend. It's a gateway western, but also just a very fun and entertaining film that will put a smile on your face and transport you back to your wide-eyed youth. What do you guys think of Rio Bravo? If you've never seen it, I really recommend checking it out. It's one of those bucket list sort of films, and it's also a gateway, as I said, into the western genre. Has got me very interested in seeing more of Howard Hawks movies, more westerns, and more John Wayne films. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe if you haven't yet already, because I have way more movie reviews and retrospectives planned in the future. Once again, thanks for watching everyone. I'm Jim and I'm obsessed with movies, and it's my job to try and make everyone else obsessed with them too. See you next time.